You know, sometimes the biggest, most important ideas in comics come from the most unexpected places. Today we're talking about a story that did exactly that, quietly changing superhero comics forever. And no, it wasn't some huge blockbuster event. It was a short-lived, black-and-white British comic from 1983 called The Daredevils. And in just 11 issues, it basically built the foundation for the entire Marvel multiverse as we know it.
And that really brings us to the core question of this whole story. It's the journey that the one and only Alan Moore, the genius behind Watchmen and V for Vendetta, forces our hero, Captain Britain, to take. And in doing so, he completely unraveled the very idea of what a superhero could be, way before it was cool to do so.
So where do we start? Well, not with some big triumphant moment. We start with a hero who's completely and utterly broken. This first part is all about how Moore takes Britain's #1 champion and just systematically dismantles him, piece by agonizing piece. I mean, right out of the gate, in the very first issue, Brian Braddock, that's Captain Britain, is brought back to life after a really brutal fight. But there's no hero's welcome. His cosmic mentors, Merlin and Roma, they don't pat him on the back. They just rebuild him, almost like mechanics, and tell him his near-death experience was just a test run for an even bigger fight. It's just cold. It's calculated. And for him, it's got to be absolutely terrifying.
And this right here, this is what I'm talking about. Back then, superhero origins were these sacred things, you just didn't mess with them. But Moore comes in and reframes everything Brian Braddock thought he knew. That noble, magical quest he was on, turns out it was just a cold, scientific experiment. Moore's basically performing open-heart surgery on this character's whole identity, and we get a front-row seat.
So, while Brian's whole world is falling apart, Moore introduces two of the most fascinating characters in the entire story. And these aren't just, your standard new hero and new villain. They really represent survival on one hand and total annihilation on the other. They're the two extremes of this story.
First, we meet Linda McQuillan. She's Captain UK, but she's not flying around saving the day. No, she's hiding in an apartment on our Earth, and she is terrified. She's a refugee from another reality, the only superhero who survived an apocalypse on her homeworld, and she's haunted by the last thing she ever saw, her husband being killed as he pushed her to safety.
And this is what she's running from. The Fury isn't some bad guy with a plan for world domination. It's a force of nature. It's a Cyabite, part machine, part living thing, and it was designed for one single horrifying purpose, to hunt and kill superhumans. You can't reason with it. It has no ego. It just kills. And it didn't miss a single hero back on Linda's world.
So you think this is a personal story about trauma, right? Well, it blows up, fast, into this massive cosmic courtroom drama. And Brian is about to get a crash course in how the universe doesn't play fair, and how justice often depends on who's in charge.
So Brian literally gets kidnapped by this crew of interdimensional mercenaries, the special executive. They yank him across reality itself to testify at a trial for Saturnine, who's a cosmic bigwig, accused of causing the exact disaster that destroyed Linda's home, Earth 238. But here's the thing. This whole trial is a total sham. The judge, a guy named Lord Mandragon, he's Saturnine's political rival and her replacement. He has every reason to find her guilty so he can grab more power. The whole thing is just a masterclass in how powerful institutions can bend the truth to get what they want.
And what happens next, after this complete mockery of justice, is where this little comic quietly changes everything. This is where a concept gets introduced that would go on to define not just Marvel, but pretty much all of superhero fiction. Just to show how powerful he is and to, tie up a loose end, Mandragon just destroys Earth 238. An entire universe, with all of its people, its history, just blinked out of existence in one single terrifying panel. And remember, this was years before DC did their big Crisis on Infinite Earths. Moore has a whole reality erased with this breathtaking, casual cruelty. It's pure cosmic horror.
In the middle of all this universal destruction, the story just casually drops a number, a simple 3-digit number that would become one of the single most important pieces of Marvel lore ever.
Yup. Earth 616. That's our universe, the main Marvel universe, the one where all the big stories happen. It was named for the very first time right here in this little British comic. This is pretty much the moment the Marvel Multiverse officially got put on the map.
And just in case you didn't get that the multiverse is now a thing, we get introduced to the Captain Britain Corps, basically an endless league of Captain Britons from every reality imaginable.
And you can tell the creators just had a blast with this, using all the different captains to poke fun at different ideas of what it means to be British. It's brilliant stuff.
But here's the truly scary part. These cosmic nightmares, they don't stay in some far-off dimension. The final act of the story brings the apocalypse right to Brian Braddock's front door, right here on Earth 616.
So it all starts with a politician, a charismatic guy named Sir James Jaspers, who starts this whole anti-superhuman campaign. And for Linda, Captain UK, this is pure déjà vu. This is exactly how the nightmare began back on her world, with the slow, creeping poison of fascism that ended in genocide.
And then the monster shows up. The Fury, which somehow survived its entire reality being erased, just appears on Earth 616. And when Linda sees it again, her reaction is what's so powerful. She doesn't leap into a heroic fight. She freezes. She's paralyzed by her trauma. It's just this incredibly real, unflinching look at post-traumatic stress.
You know, it's crazy to think that the original comic, The Daredevils, it only lasted 11 issues. It got canceled. The story did get finished later, but what they packed into that short black and white run, wow, it's truly extraordinary.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, look at this. All the stuff that's driving pop culture today, the multiverse in the MCU and Spider-Verse, it started here. The dark, gritty, psychologically complex hero you see in stuff like Watchmen or The Boys, the blueprint is right here. Using superheroes to explore the scary rise of political fascism? It is all here in a forgotten comic from 1983.
So in the end, this whole story is really a parable. It takes a hero, strips him down to nothing, shatters his reality, and forces him to face these unbelievable horrors. And it leaves us with this final, really important question. In a world where your whole identity can be a lie and your powers can't stop the real monsters, what does being a hero actually mean? It's a question comics, and the movies they inspire, are still trying to answer today.